They held her down, while the woman she called Mother cut off every strand of her hair, not by accident, but out of pure jealousy. Her cries filled the room, but no one came to save her. And the worst part? This happened just hours before a royal gathering, where the prince would choose his bride. Her stepmother looked at her and said, "Now let's see who will choose you." They thought they had destroyed her, but what happened next shocked an entire kingdom, because the girl they tried to shame walked into that palace and left with something no one ever expected. This is the story of Xena. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful stories like this one. Now, let's begin. In a quiet village surrounded by tall trees and dusty roads, there lived a young girl named Xena. Xena was known by everyone, not because she was rich, not because she wore expensive clothes, but because of her beautiful golden braids. Her hair was long, thick, and shining like sunlight. Whenever she walked through the village, people would stop and look. "Look at her hair," one woman would whisper. "It's like gold," another would say. Little girls admired her. Some even tried to copy her hairstyle, but no one's looked like Xena's. But Xena was not proud. She was kind. Very kind. Every evening, after helping her mother cook, Xena would sit on a small wooden stool while her mother gently combed her hair. Her mother, Amora, had soft hands and a warm smile. "Sit still, my child," Amora would say gently. "I'm trying, Mama," Xena would reply, smiling. As Amora braided her hair, she would always say the same words. "Xena, listen to me carefully." Xena would nod. "Your beauty is a gift, but your heart is your real crown." Xena would always ask, "What does that mean, Mama?" Amora would smile and touch her cheek. "It means your kindness, your courage, and how you treat people. That is what will make you truly special." Xena would think for a moment, then say softly, "So even if I'm not the most beautiful, I can still be important." Amora would laugh gently. "You are already beautiful. But beauty can fade. A good heart never fades." Xena hugged her mother tightly. "I will always be kind, Mama. I promise." Life was simple, but it was happy. Until one day, everything changed. One afternoon, Xena noticed her mother was not moving as much as usual. "Mama, are you okay?" she asked, worried. "I'm just a little tired," Amora replied weakly. But the next day, her mother could not get out of bed. Days passed. Xena stopped going out to play. She stayed beside her mother, holding her hand. "Mama, you will get better, right?" Xena asked, her voice shaking. Amora looked at her with tired eyes and forced a small smile. "Come closer, Xena." Xena leaned in. Amora gently touched her hair. "Never forget what I told you." Tears filled Xena's eyes. "No, Mama, don't talk like that. Be kind, even when people are not kind to you." "I will, Mama," Xena cried. "And be strong even when life hurts." Xena held her hand tightly. "I promise." Amora smiled one last time. "I love you, my golden girl." Then slowly, she closed her eyes and never opened them again. Xena screamed, "Mama, Mama, please wake up." But it was too late. That day, Xena lost the only person who truly loved and protected her. The house became quiet. Too quiet. Her father, though a good man, was weak and always busy trying to survive. He did not know how to care for Xena the way her mother did. Xena missed everything. Her mother's voice. Her laughter. The way she braided her hair every night. Now, Xena sat alone, holding her mother's old scarf, whispering into the silence. "I will be strong, Mama. I promise." But deep inside, she was afraid. She didn't know that her life was about to become much harder. A few months after Amora's death, Xena's father made a decision. One evening, he called Xena. "Xena, come here," he said. Xena walked slowly to him. "Yes, Papa." He avoided her eyes. I cannot do this alone anymore. Zina felt her heart sink. What do you mean? I am going to remarry. Zina froze. Remarry? Her chest felt tight. But Mama just died. I know, he said quickly. But we need help in this house. Zina looked down. Okay, Papa, she whispered. She didn't want to argue, but something inside her felt uneasy. A few days later, the new wife arrived. Her name was Madame Cora. She stepped into the house with confidence, her eyes sharp and cold. Behind her was her daughter, Lyra. Lyra looked around with a smirk. So this is the house, she said rudely. Zina stood quietly in the corner. Her father smiled nervously. Zina, come greet your new mother. Zina stepped forward slowly. Good evening, Ma, she said politely. Madame Cora looked her up and down. Her eyes stopped at Zina's hair. For a moment, her expression changed. Not admiration, but something darker. Jealousy. So this is the girl, Cora said slowly. Zina nodded. Yes, Ma. Cora forced a fake smile. You are pretty. But her tone did not sound kind. Lyra stepped closer and circled Zina. She said, touching Zina's braid without permission. Zina quickly stepped back. Don't touch me, she said softly. Lyra laughed. Oh, she has a voice. Cora frowned. Lyra, behave, she said, but there was no real warning in her voice. That night, everything began to change. The next morning, Zina woke up early as usual. But before she could start her day, Cora called her loudly. Zina. Yes, Ma. Zina ran into the living room. Cora sat comfortably, eating. From today, you will do all the housework. Zina blinked. All. Yes. Cooking, cleaning, washing, everything. Zina looked confused. But what about Lyra? Lyra laughed from the chair. Me. Work. Don't be funny. Cora's face became serious. Lyra is not like you. She deserves to rest. Zina felt hurt. But I also. Are you talking back to me? Cora snapped. Zina quickly shook her head. No, Ma. Good. Then go and start cooking. From that day, Zina's life became difficult. She woke up before sunrise. She cleaned the house, washed clothes, cooked food, and still got no appreciation. One afternoon, after hours of work, Zina walked into the kitchen. Auntie, can I eat something? I'm very hungry. Cora looked at her coldly. That food is for Lyra. Zina's voice trembled. But I cooked it. And? Cora replied sharply. Zina lowered her head. Sorry, Ma. She walked outside slowly and sat under a tree. Her stomach hurt from hunger. Tears rolled down her face. I miss you, Mama, she whispered. Inside the house, Lyra looked at her through the window. Why does everyone still talk about her? She complained. Cora crossed her arms. Because of that hair. Lyra frowned. I hate it. Cora's eyes darkened. Don't worry, we will deal with her. Lyra smiled slowly. How? Cora leaned closer and whispered something into her ear. Lyra's smile grew wider. That's perfect. Outside, Zina wiped her tears. She didn't know what was coming. But one thing was clear. Her peaceful life was gone. And a new, painful chapter had begun. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Zina's life became a cycle of work, silence, and quiet pain. Every morning, she woke up before the sun. She swept the compound, fetched water, cooked food, washed clothes until her fingers became rough and tired. Meanwhile, Lyra did nothing. She sat in front of the mirror all day, trying different hairstyles, different clothes, different poses. But no matter what she did, people still talked about Zina. One afternoon, As Zina returned from the stream with a heavy bucket of water on her head, she passed a group of village women. They smiled when they saw her. "Zina, you are growing more beautiful every day," one woman said. "Your hair is still the most beautiful in this village," another added. Zina smiled politely. "Thank you, Ma," she said softly. But before she could walk away, another woman said, "It's a pity, such a beautiful girl living such a hard life." Zina's smile faded slightly. She lowered her head and walked away quietly. From a distance, Lyra was watching. Her face tightened with anger. She rushed back into the house and slammed the door. "This is not fair," she shouted. Cora looked up calmly. "What happened?" Lyra paced around the room angrily. "Everywhere I go, it's Zina this, Zina that," she mocked. "Her hair, her beauty, her kindness. I'm tired of hearing her name." Cora's eyes narrowed. "Calm down." "No, I won't calm down." Lyra snapped. "I dress better than her. I look better than her. So why does no one notice me?" Cora stood up slowly. "They notice her because of one thing." Lyra stopped pacing. "What?" Cora's voice became cold. "Her hair." Lyra's eyes darkened. She touched her own hair, then scoffed. "It's not even that special." Cora walked closer to her. "But it is, in their eyes." Silence filled the room. Then slowly, Lyra smiled. A dangerous smile. "So if she doesn't have it anymore," she said quietly. Cora's lips curved slightly. "Exactly." That same evening, something big happened in the village. A loud drum echoed through the streets. Boom! 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 The town crier stood in the center of the village, shouting loudly. "Hear this! Hear this!" People gathered around quickly. Zina stood at the back, listening. "In 3 days' time, there will be a grand royal gathering at the palace." The crowd gasped in excitement. All unmarried young women must attend. Zina's heart began to beat fast. The king will choose a bride for the prince. The crowd erupted into cheers. Zina's eyes widened. A chance. A small, impossible chance. She ran home as fast as she could. "Auntie! Auntie!" she called, breathing heavily. Cora looked at her with irritation. "What is it now?" Zina spoke quickly, her eyes shining. "There is going to be a royal gathering. The prince will choose a bride." Lyra stood up immediately. "I heard it too," she said proudly. "Of course, I will be there." Zina hesitated, then gathered courage. "Auntie, please, can I go too?" The room became quiet. Cora slowly turned her head. "You?" Zina nodded. "Yes, Ma. I also want to try." Before she could finish, Lyra burst out laughing. "You?" she mocked. "You want to stand beside me in a palace?" Zina swallowed hard. "I just want a chance." Cora's face hardened. "You are a servant in this house," she said coldly. "Do servants go to royal gatherings?" Zina's voice shook slightly. "But I am also a girl. I deserve to go." Cora stepped closer, her eyes sharp. "Listen to me carefully, Zina." Zina held her breath. "You will not go anywhere." Zina felt her chest tighten. "But..." "No!" Cora shouted. The sound echoed in the room. Zina stepped back, scared. Lyra smirked. "Even if you go, no prince will look at you," she said. "You don't belong there." Zina's eyes filled with tears. But this time, she didn't stay silent. She lifted her head slightly. "I will go," she said softly. Cora's eyes widened in anger. "What did you say?" Zina's voice trembled, but she repeated, "I will go." Lyra laughed again. "And what will you wear? Your dirty clothes?" Zina didn't respond. But deep inside, she had made up her mind. That night, as Zina lay on her bed, she held her mother's scarf tightly. "Mama," she whispered. They don't believe in me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But I still want to try. She closed her eyes slowly. I will not give up. In the next room, Cora and Lyra were awake, plotting. She is stubborn, Lyra said. Cora nodded. She must be stopped. Lyra leaned forward. Let's do it. Cora's eyes became cold and dangerous. Yes. She will never go to that gathering. The day before the royal gathering finally arrived. Xena worked harder than ever. She cleaned every corner of the house, washed clothes twice, cooked all the meals without complaining. Her body ached. Her feet hurt. But her heart was hopeful. If I finish everything, maybe nothing will stop me, she whispered to herself. By nightfall, she was completely exhausted. She lay down on her small bed. For the first time in a long while, she smiled. Tomorrow, she whispered softly. Then she fell into a deep sleep. The house became quiet. Too quiet. Then, creak. Xena's door slowly opened. A shadow slipped inside. It was Cora. Behind her, Lyra, and two strong men. Xena was still asleep, peaceful, unaware. Cora stood beside the bed, staring at Xena's hair. Her eyes filled with hatred. So this is what makes you special, she whispered. Lyra crossed her arms. Do it. Cora nodded. The two men stepped forward and held Xena's arms tightly. Xena moved slightly, confused. What? She murmured weakly. Before she could wake fully, Cora grabbed her hair. Xena's eyes flew open. Auntie! What are you doing? Hold her! Cora snapped. Xena struggled. Let me go. Please. You're hurting me. Lyra stood watching, smiling. Now you will learn your place, she said coldly. Cora raised a sharp pair of scissors. Xena's eyes widened in fear. No, no, please, she cried. But Cora didn't stop. Snip. The first cut fell. Xena screamed. My hair. Snip. 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 Her golden braids fell to the floor one by one. Tears streamed down her face. Please. Stop. Please, she begged. But no one listened. Lyra even took out her phone, recording everything. Let everyone see this, she said with a wicked smile. Minutes later, it was over. Xena's head was completely shaved. She sat frozen, broken, her hair gone. Cora dropped the scissors. Now, she said coldly, let's see if the prince will choose you. Lyra laughed. You look like nothing now. They turned and walked out, leaving Xena alone. Xena slowly touched her head. Her hands trembled. No, she whispered. Tears fell endlessly. This was Mama's last gift. She fell to the floor, crying deeply. Her whole body shook. Her heart felt like it was breaking into pieces. For a long time, she cried, until there were no tears left. Then slowly, she remembered something. Her mother's voice. Soft, gentle. Your heart is your real crown. Xena closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. Then another. You took my hair, she whispered weakly. But you cannot take my heart. She slowly stood up. Still shaking. Still hurting. But something inside her had changed. This was no longer just pain. This was the beginning of something powerful. Xena stood in the middle of her small room. Silent. Still. Broken. The floor was covered with her golden braids, the same hair her mother used to comb with love every night. Now, it was gone. Xena slowly walked toward the mirror. Her hands trembled as she touched her head. Smooth. Bare. Unfamiliar. Tears gathered in her eyes again. I don't even recognize myself, she whispered. Her voice sounded weak, like it belonged to someone else. She sank to the floor and hugged her knees tightly. Why would they do this to me? she cried softly. I never hurt them. Her chest felt heavy. Her heart felt empty. For a moment, Zena thought about giving up. Maybe they're right, she whispered. Maybe I don't belong there. Her eyes fell on the corner of the room. Her mother's old scarf. Zena slowly crawled toward it and picked it up. She pressed it to her chest. Mama, she cried. I'm tired. I don't have the strength anymore. The room was quiet. But in her heart, it felt like she heard her mother's voice again. Soft. Calm. Be strong, even when life hurts. Zena closed her eyes tightly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm trying, Mama. I'm trying. Just then. Knock. Knock. Zena quickly wiped her face. Who is it? She asked weakly. It's me, open the door, a familiar voice replied. Zena opened the door slowly. It was Sonny, her childhood friend. The moment Sonny saw her, he froze. Zena, he whispered. His eyes widened in shock. Who did this to you? Zena looked away. It's nothing. Nothing. Sonny stepped closer, his voice rising. This is not nothing. Zena tried to stay strong, but her voice broke. They didn't want me to go to the royal gathering. Sonny clenched his fists. This is wickedness. Zena shook her head. It's okay. I won't go anymore. Sonny stared at her. What did you just say? I said I won't go, Zena repeated quietly. What's the point? Everyone will laugh at me. Sonny stepped closer, his eyes serious. Look at me, Zena. She hesitated, then slowly raised her head. You're not going because of your hair, he said firmly. Zena blinked. You're going because of who you are. Zena's lips trembled. But I look different. Sonny interrupted. So what? Zena stayed silent. Sonny pointed at her chest. Your strength is still here. Then he pointed at her head. And your mind is still here. His voice softened. They tried to break you. Don't help them finish the job. Zena felt something shift inside her. A small spark. Sonny reached into a bag he brought. I came prepared, he said. He pulled out a neatly folded outfit. A deep royal blue dress, simple but elegant. Zena's eyes widened. Sonny, where did you get this? I didn't steal it, he said quickly, smiling slightly. My sister made it for you. Zena touched the fabric gently. It's beautiful. Sonny nodded. And this? He pulled out a carefully wrapped cloth. A head wrap, decorated with small shining stones. Zena held it slowly. Her hands were still shaking. I don't know if I can do this. Sonny looked at her seriously. Yes, you can. Zena took a deep breath. Then another. She wiped her tears completely. I will go, she said quietly. Sonny smiled. That's the Zena I know. A few hours later, Zena stood in front of the mirror again. But this time, she looked different. She wore the blue dress. The head wrap covered her bald head beautifully. Her face was calm. Her eyes were strong. Zena stared at her reflection. They took my hair, she whispered. Then she lifted her chin slightly. But they didn't take me. The palace was filled with light. Music played softly in the air. Beautiful girls stood everywhere, dressed in expensive gowns and shining jewelry. Laughter and whispers filled the room. Then, suddenly, the doors opened. Zena stepped inside. At first, no one noticed. Then, slowly, heads began to turn. Who is that? Someone whispered. She looks different. Zena walked forward calmly. Her heart was beating fast, but her steps were steady. Across the room, Lyra saw her. Her eyes widened in shock. She came, she snapped. Cora turned quickly. For a moment, she looked confused. Then her face twisted in anger. That girl, she muttered. As Zena walked deeper into the hall, whispers grew louder. Why is she covering her head? Is she hiding something? Lyra smirked suddenly. This is perfect, she said. Cora smiled coldly. Yes, let's finish this. Lyra stepped forward loudly. Everyone, she called out. The music slowly stopped. People turned to look. Lyra pointed directly at Zena. This girl is hiding something. Zena froze. Her heart pounded. Cora stepped forward too. Why don't you show them who you really are? She said mockingly. The crowd murmured. Zena's hands tightened. Fear tried to rise again. But then, she remembered Sonny's words. Don't help them finish the job. Slowly, Zena reached for her head wrap. The entire hall went silent. Lyra smiled, waiting. Do it, she whispered. Zena took a deep breath. Then, she removed the scarf. Gasps filled the room. She's bald. Is this a joke? Some people laughed. Others whispered. Zena felt the weight of their eyes. For a second, it hurt. Deeply. But then, she did something no one expected. She stood tall, lifted her head, and spoke. Yes, Zena said clearly. My head is bald. The room became quiet again. Her voice was calm, but powerful. It was not my choice. She paused. But I am still here. People stopped laughing. Zena continued. They tried to shame me, to stop me, to make me feel small. Her eyes moved across the crowd. But I refused to hide. The room was completely silent now. Even Lyra's smile faded slightly. At the far end of the hall, the prince had been watching everything. Quietly, carefully. His eyes never left Zena. Zena took one more breath. Then said softly, My hair is gone, but my courage is not. And in that moment, everything changed. The laughter disappeared. Respect took its place. The prince stepped forward slowly. The crowd parted for him. His eyes were fixed on Zena. Calm, warm, certain. Zena's heart began to race again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was something else. Something powerful. And everyone in that room knew. Something unforgettable was about to happen. The palace hall was completely silent. All eyes followed the prince as he walked slowly toward Zena. Each step echoed across the room. Tap, tap, tap. Zena's heart pounded loudly in her chest. Why is he coming toward me? She wondered. She felt nervous. Afraid. But she did not move. She stood her ground. The prince stopped right in front of her. Up close, Zena could see his calm, kind eyes. He studied her face, not with pity, but with respect. What is your name? He asked gently. Zena swallowed softly. Zena, she replied. The prince nodded slowly. Zena, he repeated. Then, something unexpected happened. He smiled. From behind, Lyra suddenly stepped forward in panic. My prince, she called loudly. Everyone turned. Lyra rushed forward, her voice desperate. You don't understand. She is nothing. She is just a servant. Cora quickly joined her. Yes, Your Highness, she added. She is not fit to stand here. My daughter, Lyra, is the one you should choose. Lyra lifted her chin proudly. I am beautiful, well-dressed, and from a proper home, she said confidently. The crowd murmured. Everything felt tense again. The prince slowly turned his head toward them. His expression changed. Not angry, but firm. Are you finished? He asked calmly. Lyra blinked, confused. Why, yes. The prince looked back at Zena. Then he spoke loudly, so everyone could hear. I have seen beauty tonight. The girls in the room smiled, thinking he meant them. I have seen expensive dresses. Some lifted their gowns proudly. I have seen shining jewelry. Others touched their necklaces. Then the prince paused, and his voice became stronger. But none of those impressed me. The smiles slowly disappeared. The prince stepped closer to Zina. I have also seen courage, he continued. The room was silent again. I have seen a young woman stand in front of a crowd, after being humiliated. Zina's eyes filled with emotion, and instead of hiding, she stood tall. Lyra shook her head quickly. No, 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 this is not happening, she whispered. Cora's face turned pale. The prince gently took Zina's hand. Gasps filled the room. Zina froze. Her heart skipped a beat. A queen, the prince said clearly, is not chosen by her hair or her clothes. He lifted Zina's hand slightly. A queen is chosen by her strength, her heart, and her courage. Then, in front of everyone, he said the words that changed everything. I choose Zina. The room exploded. Gasps. Whispers. Shock. No way. Did he just say her? This cannot be real. Lyra screamed. This is not fair, she cried. She has no hair. She is nothing. Cora grabbed her arm. Control yourself, she whispered harshly. But it was too late. Everyone had heard. Everyone had seen. The prince turned to them one last time. If this is how you treat someone weaker than you, he said firmly, then no crown will ever make you worthy. Lyra went silent. Her face burned with shame. Cora lowered her head. For the first time, they had nothing to say. The prince looked back at Zina. His voice softened again. Zina. She looked up at him slowly. Will you walk this journey with me? Zina's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. I don't know what to say, she whispered. The prince smiled. Say yes. Zina let out a small, emotional laugh. Then nodded. Yes. Her voice trembled. Yes, I will. The crowd slowly began to clap. Then louder. Then louder. Until the entire hall was filled with applause. In that moment, Zina realized something powerful. They tried to shame her. They tried to break her. But instead, they revealed her strength to the world. Days passed quickly after the royal gathering. But the story of that night spread even faster. Across villages. Across towns. Across the entire kingdom. People talked about Zina everywhere. Did you hear about the bald girl the prince chose? They tried to shame her, but she stood strong. She is different. She is special. Even the video Lyra recorded began to spread. At first, it was meant to embarrass Zina. But instead, it made people admire her more. They saw her pain. They saw her courage. And they respected her. Soon, the day arrived. The day Zina would be crowned queen. The palace was more beautiful than ever. Flowers decorated every corner. Music filled the air. People gathered in large numbers, excited and proud. Zina stood in a quiet room, wearing a simple but elegant gown. Her head was still bald. But this time, she wore it proudly. Sonny stood beside her, smiling. I told you, he said softly. Zina laughed lightly. You did. She looked at herself in the mirror. I was so close to giving up, she admitted. Sonny nodded. But you didn't. Zina picked up her head wrap. The same one she wore that night. She tied it gently around her head. This, she said softly, is not to hide anymore. She looked at Sonny. It is to remind. Moments later, Zina stepped out into the grand hall. The crowd went silent. Then slowly, they began to clap. The prince stood waiting for her, proud, smiling. Zina walked forward calmly, step by step, stronger than ever. The king stood up and raised his hand. Today, he announced loudly, we crown a queen not of appearance. The room became still. but of courage, strength, and heart. The prince gently placed the crown on Zena's head. Tears filled her eyes. She closed them briefly. "Mama, I hope you can see me." When she opened her eyes, the entire kingdom was cheering. Zena stepped forward to speak. Her voice was calm, but powerful. "I stand here today, not because I was the most beautiful." She paused. "But because I refused to break." The crowd listened carefully. Zena continued. "They took something from me that I thought I needed." Her hand touched her head. "But they could not take who I am." She looked around the room. "I want every girl, every person, to remember this." Her voice grew stronger. "You are not your appearance. You are not what people say about you. You are your strength. You are your heart." Tears rolled down many faces. Zena smiled softly. "This scarf," she touched it gently, "will no longer be a sign of shame." She lifted her head proudly. "It will be a symbol of courage." From that day on, everything changed. Girls who were once ashamed of their scars, their differences, their struggles, began to stand tall. They wore scarves like Zena's, not to hide, but to show strength. As for Cora and Lyra, they watched from far away, silent, regretful. They finally understood something too late. You can try to break someone, you can try to shame them, but if their heart is strong, you will only make them rise higher. Zena held the prince's hand and smiled. Her journey had been painful, but it led her here. From a broken girl to a powerful queen. And her story would be remembered forever. They tried to take her crown, but she returned wearing a kingdom. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Has anyone ever tried to make you feel small or take away your confidence? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today.